So our today's main agenda is to cover up the initial part of theory overview and all. I will do only for that whiteboarding because the detailed sessions we have already available. All right. Then we will perform hands-on around that. Okay. All right. So what happens in the VMware environment? How my virtual machines being communicated internally, or how the machines got communicated with the external devices, physical devices, or maybe the machines which are available on different ESXi host. All right. So for that, our VMware vSphere provide the virtual networking function. Okay. So that have under virtual networking functions, those are inbuilt. We can create kind of virtual switch, we can create subnet, VLAN, okay, and different kind of network ports. That's all are available, like, and virtual switch have capability to got to got it connected with the physical switch, interchange the protocols, networking protocols and all. That's all features are available. So in case of virtual networking environment, primarily VMs got connected into the virtual switch, all right, into the virtual switch. So normally two types of virtual switch are available, that will talk one by one: standard virtual switch and distributed virtual switch. All right. So the key difference between standard virtual switch and distributed virtual switch are: standard virtual switch, we have to create individually on each and every host, do the setting. And if you like, for example, if we wants to publish some VLAN into standard virtual switch, the all VLANs we need to repeatedly configure for all of the other standard virtual switch, right? So whatever setting individually we are doing in standard virtual switch, because this is something we do for each host level, and DVS is something we do on vCenter level, and these settings will automatically reflect it to all available ESXi hosts which are participating in DVS, distributed virtual switch, or sometimes we say vSphere distributed switch also. All that, okay, that's all we have covered in class, like what are the all major differences that is there. But in further, if we talk about primarily the standard virtual switch, how do we get connected? Okay, so there is two kinds. In two way we create ports in standard virtual switch. One is we called port group. Port groups are primarily used to connect your VMs. So when we create any port group, in any of the port group, we assign the name and VLAN ID. Okay, name and VLAN ID. And some of the ports directly will be used for your hypervisor function that we called as VM kernel port. Those VM kernel port perform primarily hypervisor function, kind of management, vMotion, vSAN, vSphere replication, fault tolerance, IP storage connectivity, kind of your iSCSI or NFS and all. Okay. So in the name is VM kernel, means it is primarily used for hypervisor function. On those VM kernel port, we don't connect any of the virtual machine. Primarily, virtual machines connection got created on the top of port groups. Okay. And each of the port group can have number of virtual ports are available. All right. So for example, if I will draw this picture a little bit bigger, this is my virtual switch. So this virtual switch we are going to create inside my ESXi host. Here, for different category of virtual machines, we are going to create the different type of port groups. Like for example, one port group we have created for DB. So this is our DB PG, and also we are going to assign a VLAN like 101. So all my database virtual servers, I am going to connect here, and they were automatically will create the virtual port inside this port group. For example, if we have another set of VMs, those are my app VM, any app like any banking app or something like that, and VLAN again 102. Here we are going to connect again the virtual machines, and they will create the virtual ports. Same way for other applications, we can create the desired number of virtual ports, virtual port groups inside that. And especially for VM kernel function, management is one of the primary VM kernel port, vMotion. Like if we need another like vSphere, vSAN or something like that. So all these ports are called VM kernel port. Okay, these are primarily used for VM kernel purpose, hypervisor purpose. And when we going to create a VM kernel port, we have to assign a name and VLAN ID and one IP address also, because it is an individual port that we are going to assign for a specific function. All right. Are we clear so far? Any question? Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Shall I discard it? All right. So I'm using again same slide. So in each ESXi host, by default, a default configuration for each ESXi host is a default virtual switch. A default standard virtual switch is by default created. That's known as virtual switch 0. And under this virtual switch 0, a default port group is available for virtual machine connection. The name is VM network, and a default virtual machine kernel port is got created. The name is management, and function is also management. So you remember the day when you build the ESXi cluster, you provide an IP address, correct? So that time you were feeling I have given an IP to physical port. No, actually that IP was provided to this management VM kernel port that day. And that VM kernel port was mapped to by default your first physical NIC that we called as VM NIC 0. All right. So the question is, sir, can I create more in this default virtual switch? Can I create more port groups? Can I create more VM kernel port? Answer is absolutely yes, you can use it. But if you will say, sir, can I delete it? The answer is no. Okay. Third question is, sir, if any case customer is not looking for a standard virtual switch, can I migrate all the configurations from this standard virtual switch to somewhere on another standard switch or distributed switch? Answer is yes. You can evacuate completely the default virtual switch, all right? And but you cannot delete that. You can unmap all physical NICs and all port groups, even your management port also from there. Okay. Now, next question is, sir, within a single ESXi host, can we create another virtual switches along with the default one? Answer is absolutely yes. Why not? It's your choice. But to move out the traffic, each virtual switch need at least one physical uplink. When we say uplink means is your ports are going outside to for the connection of physical network switch. Until unless you will not make connection to physical network switch, your VMs or any traffic with the ESXi host can talk internally only. They cannot talk outside of the ESXi host. Any virtual machine in a port group can talk here, but they cannot talk to other port group machines, or they cannot talk to the VMs hosted on another ESXi, or they cannot talk to any physical world applications like your physical server here, some physical server here, okay, or somebody from the outside try to reach to your VM. That's not possible until unless your physical NIC will not be mapped to the physical switches. All right, clear? Yes, no? Are we good so far?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Okay, again, now, sir, you said like this should be connected with physical worlds and all, but what all things we need to coordinate with the network engineers, what we want, what kind of this, okay? So now, let us assume a scenario, a production scenario, a real environment scenario, what happens there. So in real environment scenario, there could be number of ESXi host can be available there. All right, because that would be clustering environment, production environment. So for example, primarily they are using one virtual switch for all the functions. Again, I told it could be 2, 3, 4, any on the basis of your requirement. All right, but here we have to understand the logic, how the communication been happen to the outsider world. So these are my physical switch. So let us suppose on each of host, we are using two physical uplink. Uplink ports are where my virtual switch will map to the physical NICs. In VMware language, in vSphere, if you will see, name will be VMNIC 0, VMNIC 1. So for redundancy purpose, at least we need two should be mapped, but it could be more. There could be number of virtual switch, again on the basis of environment required. So this is my physical switch. So what we need to do is, for redundancy purpose, each of the NIC go one to another switch, one to another switch. So these are my physical switch. All right. So the guy who are the network administrator who are working in this environment, let us suppose you say, sir, I have planned some networking for vSphere. For example, you say, sir, for management, I will use the VLAN ID as 0, but VLAN ID 0 means untagged native VLAN. And I am going to use some kind of IP range. And for vMotion, I have configured VLAN ID 101. Okay, along with the subnet ID, like for example, you are using some subnet for specific to VLAN 1.0/24. Like you have some more VM kernel requirement. It could be your network storage, IP-based storage traffic, where you have configured VLAN 102 and you took another subnet 2.0/24. These are something for your VM kernel traffic, and probably you are going to create one database, one VLAN for database PG, VLAN ID 121, app 1 PG, maybe 122, maybe app 2. There could be number of apps, right? So all these are my port groups, 123. So in that case, you have to speak with network engineer, and wherever your physical ports are landing to physical switch. Okay, like in this example, just an example. This is my fast Ethernet 1. This is my fast Ethernet 2. This is my fast Ethernet 3. Same way, fast Ethernet 1, 2, 3. So wherever the ports are landing, in that case, they have to configure the VLAN trunk. When we say trunk, it means that is whatever VLAN is coming from the physical ports of ESXi, where these are landing, those ports should talk to with all these VLANs. So in this case, this guy need to enable the VLAN trunk for all the VLANs that are being coming from the top, so that any traffic move can easily move outside, or maybe from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. All right. So now, if like for example, here is one DB port group, some of the VM will get connect here. Here is another DB port group. Some of the machines are DB machines are here, maybe here, similarly for another port group. So now all my DB VLANs, all my DB VMs can easily talk to each other. If VMs part of same host, they will talk locally via this virtual switch. But if any VM is landing on another host, they will talk via physical switch. Physical switch identify the VLAN, like for DB VLAN 121, because the VLANs being trunked to the virtual switch level, sorry, to physical switch level as well. So in this way, my VMs get communicated with each other. Those are available on different physical host. Do we need to enable trunk here? By default on ESXi host, VLAN trunk is standard, that is we called on virtual switch VLAN trunk 802.1q is by default enabled. So you don't need to enable any VLAN trunk on the ports level or on virtual switch level. That is by default enabled. All right. Now, question is, sir, that's fine. Now my host, I mean my L2 communication is okay. But if in case my DB VMs want to talk app VM or app 2 VMs or any cross VLAN, okay, some of the VLANs want to talk to cross VLAN. So for that purpose, we need the routing function. What we need? Routing. Any VLAN, if VLAN X wants to talk to VLAN Y, then routing is required for that. All right. So where we can configure routing? If these switches support layer 2 and layer 3, then we can do the routing to these switches itself. All right. Or if in case these are only L2 switches, then somewhere the physical router needed for that, and routing functions will be performed on the router. Why we do routing? If in case we need to provide communication between different VLANs. For that, routing is mandatory. This virtual switch does not have the capability of performing routing. Routing always being happen to the physical layer. Right? It could be by your switch or it could be by this. Okay. So when I will do the routing, it means that if my DB tier wants to talk to app tier, after performing the routing, it will. But if this VM wants to talk this VM, first of all, traffic go to outside, then getting the route and divert it back here. Or maybe like any VM reside here wants to talk to any app, or any app wants to talk to DB, they will go to out to router, or they will come back. Or if in case routing function on L3 switch, then L3 switch will work as a router and it will go back to switch. Are we clear how the traffic moves in and out across the different port groups? Okay. Or across the different ESXiOs. This is how the communication happens. Anyone, any question so far?
I'm not getting this. I don't know. Hello?
Yes, Siva, please.
So I'm not getting this, what VLAN and things.
Sorry, can you speak with loud?
No, sir, I'm not getting VLAN and what is layer and layer 3 to, I'm not getting the.
So these are the okay. So let me just keep this as it is. These are the simple networking terms. Actually, what happens in just forget about the virtual things for a moment. Okay. So if we simply talk about, this is my physical switch, all right, and all these are my physical servers. Forget about VMware, anything. This is a simple environment. So if the physical servers are connected here and they are from different families, like this is my DB server, this is my app 1, this is my app 2, all right, this is my app 3. So by default, what happens in in case of physical switch always have the physical ports, all right, and there could be 24 port, 48 port, 96 port, kind of that. Okay, so normally by default all the physical ports are member of same virtual LAN. When we say same virtual LAN, by default switch treat as all the ports part of same segment. When I say same segment or same VLAN, means it is just one broadcast domain. What do you mean by broadcast domain? It means that is any any of the ports who will be the part of this broadcast domain, they can communicate with each other. So till now, my DB can talk to app talk to app 2, app. Okay, so there is no segregation of different kind of workload. So for maintaining the security in the networking environment, what we do, we configure the VLAN, virtual LAN. Creating a new VLAN means is creating a new broadcast domain. So what it means is, what I'm trying to do here is, sir, in my production environment, we have number of database server, number of application 1 servers, number of application 2 servers, number of application 3 servers, blah, blah. Okay. Sir, we want a certain layer of security between them. I don't want app for the application 1 DB directly talk, or for app 2 DB directly, until unless communication is required, this communication should not be happen. So in this way, this all kind of traffic is segregated into different kind of broadcast domain or different level. So that's we called as VLAN. So for that, what I will do, I will create another broadcast domain. It means that I am making a separate logical group of my DB servers. Creating a separate broadcast domain means is creating a separate VLAN, and also you will give a VLAN ID. When I say VLAN ID, VLAN ID is a number somewhere between 40 to 409. All right, you can assign any identity. Same way, I would say, sir, for app 1, I want a separate security boundary. So for app 1, you will create another broadcast domain. It means that you will create another VLAN. Like for example, in DB, you have given a VLAN ID. Let us suppose 121. And for broadcast, for another one, you have to give to 122, for example. Same way, for segregating this, you have create another VLAN, and you have provide another VLAN ID, another broadcast domain, another VLAN ID, another VLAN. Okay. So what is the advantage of it? So now creating separate broadcast domain and separate VLAN ID means is now logically now you can say, sir, we have these number of DB servers. These are segregated from another servers. They DB can talk with each other, but they DB cannot talk to servers are available another VLAN, that is my app. They will not disturb the traffic. This is just segregation. This is just a grouping of the same family of VMs. All right. So in this case, they can talk with each other, they can talk, but they will not talk to app 2 groups because it's a separate logical group within switch now. They cannot talk to another. They cannot talk until unless it is required. Got it? Are you a bit clear now?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just a logical segregation of the devices connected to the physical switch or virtual switch. So in case of virtual switch, simply we say them is port group. All right. And port group is nothing, just parallel to your physical available VLANs. All right. So now you would say, sir, if I will do same, in this case, I have done the same configuration in this, but if this one switch is not enough to cater the traffic, I will create another switch. I mean, we will connect another physical switch and we will do the similar configuration, whatever I have done in switch 1. But for that, to identify whatever VLAN is available here and here, we have to configure the trunk port. Trunk port allow all the VLANs from switch 1 to switch 2, switch 2 to switch 2. Any traffic, like for example, DB, some servers are here and some of the DB servers are here. They want to talk with each other. They can. But when between these switches, trunking will be enabled. All right. So now what's happening in the VMware environment, if I'll take you back to previous slide, my virtual machines are connected to virtual switch where we have created different port group. Port group is nothing, just your VLANs, and trunking being configured to communicate with these to the physical switch level. It means that is whatever VLAN I am configuring here, same VLAN will be configured here, and a trunk port. This is the trunk port, and a trunk will enable because we want any traffic should coming from here, that traffic should be identified by these physical switches. All right. But as a VMware engineer, do you need to do anything on physical switch? Answer is no. But yes, you have to tell. Anyway, this all will be planned by network engineer itself. But yes, creating a port group, creating VM kernel port, assigning VLAN, that would be your task. All right, that would not be the task of the network engineer. On VMware, creating any virtual switch, creating any port group is nothing, just creating a VLAN. This activity will be done by you, but any networking level things that would be taken care by the network engineer. All right. So let us see by doing some hands-on, then you will get more clarity. So, okay, that's available in recording, I believe. Yes. So I'm discarding these all the things from here. All right, jump back to our environment. Yeah, but before that, what we are going to do today in the lab. In lab, we have number of ESXi host. On each and every ESXi host, what we are going to do on each host, on each host, by default, we have a SVS standard virtual switch 0 is already available. In that, a virtual machine port group is already available. Name is VM network and a VM kernel port is available. Name is management and that function is also management. All right. What additionally we are going to do? We will create one more virtual switch, standard virtual switch 1. We will map this switch to VMNIC 1 because VMNIC 0 is already here. And VMNIC 2. Then we will create some virtual machine port groups. I will create one DBPG. I will create one app 1 port group. I will assign VLAN 101, VLAN 102. All right. And I will create one VM kernel port. In this, name would be vMotion kernel port and function will also be vMotion. This whole activity we are going to perform each and every host. How we can do it? We can do it because it's an individual activity, either from your vCenter console or by logging in individual ESXi host. All right. So whenever we are using standard virtual switch configuration, it's always mandatory to do same kind of configuration each and every host so that if any VM will jump from here to here tomorrow, that should get the same networking construct available on another ESXi host as well. All right. Are we all good? Do we understand what do we need to do in the lab? We are going to create one standard virtual switch, map with 2 physical NIC because VMNIC 0 is by default map here. I will create 2 virtual machine port group and I will create one VM kernel port vMotion. All right, are we good? To this vMotion, I will give name this IP. I will pick any from the networking segment what we are configuring, and VLAN I can take 103. All right, guys, are we all good? Shall I proceed the lab now? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
This for reference so that you guys can use it whenever you will perform. So let me just try to log in inside the vCenter server. Can anyone tell me the vCenter FQDN vcs1 vmlab.local? All right. advanced, proceed, launch. For one host, I will do, and I have 2, 3 hosts. The rest of the host, you guys will play. All right. But maybe you can note down the steps, or that is already available here in the session. You can see that later. So I have logged in here, but I'm not sure whether that day we have added those hosts in this vCenter. If not, then we will add it again. Not a problem. All right. So this is our lab. This is the one cluster we have created. I'm going to add rest of the nodes here. Right click, add host. Hope you know to add the host, simply add host. And just to start putting IP or the FQDN. What was the FQDN for second host? ESXi2, correct? .vmlab.com. Let me just add one more host. 2, 3, 4. Correct? User is root for everyone, and password is same we are using for each and every host. So I am adding in parallel all of the 3 available hosts. Yes, we have to validate the certificate. ESXi host 4 login failed. All right, maybe we have not put the right credentials, but yeah, let me add this. Then I will add fourth one also. 2, 3. Right click, add host. All right, so now we can see in this cluster we have 4 hosts, and I am putting it out of maintenance mode. So if I will go any of the host, like for first one, I will go to configure tab. Under configure tab, if I will check network adapter, so this host have primary 4 adapter what we have added, and you could see VMNIC 0 means uplink 1 is connected to virtual switch 0. All right. So if I'll go to virtual switch 0 section, this is my virtual switch 0. There is 2 ports. One VM kernel port is available. Name is VM kernel. IP1, you remember you have given an IP that is 21. So this IP was given to, not directly to physical adapter. This IP was given to the VM kernel port. And one port group is already created, VM network. For them, no VLAN ID. VLAN ID is none being used for them. Now, I am going to create one more virtual switch. But for your info, can I edit it or add some port group or VM kernel? Answer is absolutely yes, that we can. Now, if I'll click to add networking, I am going to create virtual machine port group. Yes. Next, select the existing virtual switch, or you wants to create the new one. All right, existing is vSwitch 0. Okay, this is my vSwitch 0. But in this case, we have to create first new virtual switch. All right, because vSwitch 0 we don't want to use. All right, so vSwitch 0 we are not going to use by default. We want to create the new one. It should show me the new option. Why? That's the new tab now. No? New standard. I
Yes.
just reading MTU, but I'm not reading.
Mm.
So select new standard virtual switch. Next. Now it will ask you adding the adapters plus. So you should have VMNIC 1 and second is VMNIC 2. All right, so it's going to create one network adapter. Now you will give the virtual machine port group name, like for example, in our case, we are creating DBPG. VLAN ID, we are going to assign the one, what VLAN ID we have considered for it? 121, correct? Am I right? 101. Okay. 101. 101. Here 0 consider as none and all is 4095 if we don't know what is exactly. But yeah, definitely some of the time people give the VLAN like this 101, and also sometime people give the subnet ID also that we are going to use for this to keep in remember what kind of IP address we will provide under this particular VLAN ID. Okay, DBPZ, like it's all depend upon name, like along with subnet ID also they give like that way also, or sometimes they give only port group name and along with this VLAN ID. Port group is nothing, just a VLAN ID. That's a VLAN. Finish. Now this should present new virtual switch 1, and if you will see under this virtual switch, two physical NICs got connected, a VLAN ID 101 created, but no virtual machine being connected so far. So again, I will go add networking, virtual machine port group. Next, this time we will choose existing one. This is my vSwitch 1 because I have already created this. So F1 PG VLAN ID 102. All right. Finish. Now you would be able to see F1, and also we are going to create one virtual machine kernel port that you see VM kernel port for number of functions. So we are going to create one for vMotion. Select existing virtual switch, switch 1. Next, तो ये बनेगा हमारा vMotion port group VLAN ID 103 and function. These are the VM kernel functions, right? So difference only here is you have to define a specific VM kernel function and also an IP address. TCP IP stack, if we are going some another TCP IP stack, that we have to first configure the TCP IP stack created, but for now it is default. Next, IPv4. So let us suppose we are using the IP range 2.0 slash something like that. So I can give like 2.11, then to next dot you will give 12. All right. So it is just for reference purpose. 255. If you have given all these VLANs 102, 10, 101, 102, 103. So all these three VLANs should be trunked on the physical switch level. All right. Now you will ask me, sir, where is physical switch here? Because it's the nested lab, we don't need here physical switch. All right. So if on this particular host, I will create any VM, I will have a choice of adding F1PG, DB, and in virtual switch 0 itself, VM network 1. So it's all depend what kind of VM I am going to create. Like for example, I am creating a dummy VM. Dummy means just a cell. Like this is my DB1 and I want to create with DB port group. Next, ESXi host 1. Next, because on 2 I don't have configuration so far, storage policy is okay. vSAN किधर से आया यार इधर? और डेटा स्टोर किधर है भाई? Locally बना, okay. In cluster it is searching the shared data store, but so far we don't have vSphere lab DC, correct? Go back. Yeah, I got it. Why it is showing? Reason is being because we are not using any shared data store so far. So once you'll create the shared data store, it will show me the clustered data store. What I can do for now is I can go on the individual host. And when I will create the VM there, it will show its local data store where I can assign the storage as well. But in production environment, you should not go on the individual host. VMs you need to create from cluster level. That time you will have a clustered storage available there. So like for example, we have given DB VM1. You choose anything here, Windows for example. Windows 10, next. स्टोरेज क्यों नहीं दिखा रहा यार? स्टोरेज local data store, why did not showing? That's not a problem. Yeah, that cluster and all that we'll create, don't worry about that. But now what you need to do as a next step, don't worry about these red symbols because our clusters are not configured completely so far. So just follow the same networking configuration like what we did for yes, vSwitch 1. So what we did for vSwitch 1 for ESXi host 1, please follow the same step for host 2, host 3 and host 4 to keep the networking symmetry around all these hosts. All right. So let me show you again one more picture. What we need to do, SVS1, two NICs we have to map. We have to create two virtual machine port group, database PG, DB PG, F1 PG, and one VM kernel port. Right? So who will take the control now? Who is next? Praveen, Pramod, Shiva.
Sir, I'm on mobile, so if Praveen or Shiva can take.
Shiva, control is Praveen. What about you?
I am also in mobile.
Okay, Shiva, I have give you control. Just follow the instruction, what I will tell. Okay, again. So, are you able to drag your mouse? Yes. All right. So now you could see on ESXi02, there is only one V switch in the right pane, V switch 0. There is no V switch 1. Okay. Only V switch 0, right? One management VM kernel and VM network. Let's create one virtual switch in ESXi02. Go to add networking, left corner, right corner, sorry, top right corner, add networking. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, from there. Cancel it. Add networking. Just a little bit more, right? Yes, add networking. Choose second option, virtual machine port group. Next, new standard virtual switch, because we have to create new one, and MTU we are considering 1500 only. This is max. Yeah, okay, yeah, maximum transmission unit that we call MTU. Next, yeah, assign adapters, assign two adapter 1 and adapter 2, VMNIC 1 and VMNIC 2. Okay. Yeah, add one more. VMNIC 3. Sorry, 2. Sorry. Click next. So what we are doing in this step, we are creating port group and also we are creating new virtual switch. DB-PG. Capital. Yeah. VLAN ID is 101. Yeah, just click, type. Next. Finish. Now you can see vSwitch 1. Expand the vSwitch 1. And you would see one port group is there, but still no virtual machine connected. Don't worry about that. We will do that. And two physical NICs are mapped with that. Okay. Under this switch 1, click add networking again. Yeah, add networking. Click here. No, click on add networking now. Yes. Second option again. Next. Yeah, this time we will use the existing one. We are not going to create more virtual switch, and that's by default selected. Then next, app 1-PG. App 1-PG. I just click like a pop-up is coming. Yeah, 102. Next, finish. Yeah, same way we will add the VM kernel port. Okay, add networking. No, from switch. Okay, no problem. You can do it from here as well. That's not a problem. But switch selection we have to be keep in mind. Yeah, no problem. Do it from here. Next, browse. Select the existing second option. Select the existing switch. Select it. Browse. Browse. We switch one. Okay. Next. Yeah, hyphen vMotion. We have to keep in mind this is yeah, vMotion PG. Select the pop-up ना. No, vMotion ये pop-up आ रहा है ना. Wait. ये सिलेक्ट कर लो, सेम नेम रखना, ठीक है। एंड VLAN ID 103 103 टाइप, जस्ट टाइप numeric 103. All right, vMotion function we have to define, right? Next, finish. Yeah, that's fine. vMotion only. So with one VM kernel port, we can enable multiple VM kernel functions also. That's also possible. But normally we have to use the different. Use static IP. Yeah, just type 10.0.2.12. 2.12. So what we are assuming here, this is our separate VLAN. That's primarily we are using for the vMotion function. Okay, click. You just click it. That's it. Default gateway we are keeping it as it is. Next, finish. So in this way, if you are choosing multiple standard virtual switch, we have to repeat the same networking configuration every time. If any new port group is assigned, then assign it for each and every one. Yeah, I just need to perform same activity for host 3. So this time I will not tell you. You just go ahead and do that. Select host 3. Maybe your colleagues can help you. I don't want any configuration deviation in all of these hosts. Okay, do it.
No, select the standard first one.
Yeah, no, just browse and select because you have already created, right? You don't need to recreate again and again. Wait. Make it 13 because we should not conflict. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. So I'm just pausing the. Okay. So same way we have to configure for ESXi host 4. All right.